Greetings and salutations, all you stunning individuals who best believe you're bottom dollar. It's another episode of FlyQuest. My name's Eric Flying. So on today's episode, for another little bit of weekend recap action. Actually, had good matchups. Not good, I'll even go as far as saying great matchup, singular, in the LEC, and more business as usual in the other major regions. But of course, we got to kick off with that coveted back-to-back Game 5 series from Blast Blitz playoffs, the rematch, Movistar Koi versus Carmine Corp, and this one went the distance, absolutely delivered in hype, in a format, in a scheduling in Europe where we've been screaming at the top of our lungs, yearning for some actual intriguing matchups and some actual higher quality gameplay. And even though, yes, there was some throws back and forth throughout this series, there always is whenever there's a bit of back and forth. Someone's making a mistake that somebody has to capitalize on, but no question, this series as a whole was the highest quality of the oh-so-young Split 3 or Summer Split in the LEC, but maybe wouldn't have been as close in this Game 3 if JoJo, our boy, our Lord and Savior from NA, landed just one more Orianna ulti on anyone. Just not even like a 3-4 man, like a 1 or 2 man Orianna ulti, because I believe the only time he actually hits any kind of impactful, meaningful Orianna ulti is when Koi gets back into this game and almost steals a win from Carmine Corp. So a lot of suspect, not so good ultis out of him, and it's too bad because he actually had two pretty decent games before that. But I'll tell you, his opposite, Vladdy, all the off-season rumors and drama about him not being motivated, Niski coming in to kind of light a fire under him to play a bit better, had a great series. He looked remotivated, reinvigorated, rejuvenated, and if he's playing at a level like this is how Carmine Corp were winning their first title. And if he's close to this form through the majority of the split, then yeah, I'd be looking at KC as potentially the favorites to take home their second title, and of course the biggest title of the year in the summer split. Both AD carries were pretty good in this set. Supa and Kalist kind of had back and forth team fights where they were taking over, but overall expected a slower start for Koi. I know they already they didn't stumble, but struggled against Giant X. I mean, you're seeing Noah rack up like 19 kills in that series, and that was very back and forth, but I at least was expecting a slow start to the split for Carmine Corp, for Koi, and hasn't necessarily been the case, again, this competitive with Carmine Corp. Some of the other less intriguing matchups in Europe, but still, I mean, maybe more surprising to me was, and continues to be, Fnatic now at a torrid 3-0 record, and that's playing against a lot of the weaker teams. Haven't had the marquee matchup against G2 yet, but it is the fashion that Fnatic is winning these games. We often saw them have great regular seasons where they finished first, and they were winning games in their classic chaotic fashion that was a little all over the place, high kill, mistakes on both sides. But you saw, especially this week, and to a lesser degree their first couple of series, are they clean? They don't even have 10 kills. The dives early to get them a lead. Razork looks fantastic, as he often does, but getting these small wins or major wins early and just snowballing the game out of control, suffocating. This weekend it was BDS being the victims, but not really making mistakes and closing them in relatively pedestrian, easy fashion. Is it really just as simple as having a mid laner who's not maybe randomly dying, overextending, trying to get some extra CS, or being somewhere he has absolutely no business being away from the team, allows for the rest of the squad to focus on playing cleanly? Because we know, saw again, Upset and Mickey are one of probably the most dominant laners in terms of the 2v2 in all of Europe. And if Razorks be able to give a little bit of extra attention to Oscarinen and of course to Upset and Mickey, not needing to worry about the mid lane whatsoever, which Poby has done. He has without really much jungle attention and been having a huge impact in team fights. And again, not been a liability because we saw Humanoid, he would pop off and carry some games, but more often than that, it definitely felt like he was dying unwarranted for no reason. So maybe that consistency out of Poby is the secret sauce to Fnatic finally getting that elusive title in the better part of a decade. Hope so for their fan base, because they, more than anyone, are a squad that is deserving of that. We also had G2 make their debut over the weekend, and much like Koi, I was expecting a slow start. I know it's a relatively easy matchup against Team Heretics, but we're still continuing to see this pivot from G2 that kind of started at MSI, carried more into the other international tournament, where Hans Sama is kind of not only playing at a high level, but being more of a focal point for this squad in terms of, playing Jinx, playing Caitlyn, playing champions that have high priority and are being funneled resources, and he's playing well. This whole series against Heretics was kind of Hans Sama getting spoon-fed some action from not just his buddy Labrov, but we also saw Skewmont kind of showing off the mechanics throughout this series against Team Heretics. And again, you're not taking much from a single best of 3 against Team Heretics for G2, but both them and MKOI, despite the loss to KC, hitting the ground running a little bit faster than at least I was expecting heading into this. So the most reassuring weekend that we've had in the LEC in what's it been, 2 weeks? So 50-50, but a step in the right direction for the region as a whole. I'm not sure it's a step in the right direction for the LTA after week 3 action, because number one, we are just further affirming that this is a 2-team region. We were ready. Let's see it, Team Liquid. Can you step up to the plate? Can you win against Cloud9? Can you be competitive against one of these top teams to kind of give us at least a 3-headed beast heading to the World Championship? And the answer is no. There was absolutely some bite, some pushback from Team Liquid. How about Jan having an individual AD carry to AD carry compared to Sven, a 3K gold lead just between those two, and Cloud9 had the gold lead overall. With a 3K individual gold lead, Team Liquid was actually behind in gold. Now, Thanatos had over a 2K gold lead himself over Impact, which was the theme in both of these series, was a top lane Canyon with Thanatos over Impact. But just cleaner team fighting from Cloud9. Overall, a better team. The solo lanes, especially Thanatos, I just mentioned, but maybe even more so Loki against APA. We even got the coveted Ziggs pick that they showed. He's 21-7 in Tier 1 play on that pick, and it just basically had no impact as the fallback pocket pick that we've seen out of him throughout his still relatively young career. It's concerning. It's concerning if he's not looking comfortable on these picks. It's concerning that he's being, kind of taken advantage of, even in these LTA domestic mid lane matchups, which, if you look forward to any aspirations of Team Liquid making it internationally and having any kind of success, if you're getting gapped in NA, you got absolutely no shot internationally against LPL, LCK, even LEC teams going forward for Team Liquid. But luckily, they don't need to worry about that right now, because at 1 and 2, they got to worry about just surviving to the next round of action. But this was the week to see a step up from TL to maybe feel a little bit better. And even though it was by no means a clean series from Cloud9, they're still coming away with the 2-0, which, okay, no one's kind of vying at the top of the LTA. Maybe Shopify or 100 Thieves could level up in their head-to-head matchup. We got Dokla subbing in for Sniper. 2 very mixed results. We had some yucky, not so good looking teleports out of Dokla, and multiple guys in this series really, but the vibes looked better for 100 Thieves. The team atmosphere, Dokla looked happy to be back on stage, and obviously we're happy to see him back, even if it means Sniper being a 6-man, kind of watching from the back room during these games. But it did not make 100 Thieves look any better. They dropped to 0-3. I know they've had a much tougher schedule, as the broadcast highlighted, then even Shopify, who now join Cloud9 at 3-0, but very different paths to get there. B-Void looked fantastic, and Palafox has looked better and better. The synergy with contracts, there's definitely some positive things to talk about Shopify, but they're not stepping into that next step up that we thought Team Liquid could get to being a legitimate contender, a team you're actually confident in going forward. I'm not sure if they'll ever get there. I mean, if you beat Cloud9 or FlyQuest, sure, you can get there, but FlyQuest definitely looks more vulnerable. Or sorry, Cloud9 looks more vulnerable than FlyQuest, as you saw the Lion Gaming matchup, which, you know what, I'm going to highlight. Lion Gaming actually might be the third best team in the LTA right now. They had some Nexus holds, defenses, some good, solid team fights where they legitimately caught FlyQuest off guard or outplayed them. It wasn't an egregious mistake out of them, which is great and probably is the biggest surprise of the split, with Surti coming in as an emergency replacement, and all of a sudden this team looks pretty darn good, at least much better than expected. The problem for them is FlyQuest kind of feels like when an LCK team plays against the West internationally. You can make all these good, solid plays and you're barely scratching a gold lead. This team just feels like they understand the game so much better. That's how FlyQuest feels in the microcosm that is the LTA North, which is why it feels like they are hardly ever tested, save for when they do get those head-to-head matchups against Cloud9. And even though they were pushed a little bit, pushed more than they have in a couple other series, which again is not saying very much, but Lion is the glimmer of hope that I have for the LTA North as a whole as we head into this next round beyond the pick and play stage, where it's already going to be do or die for a lot of these squads, and this is where things should hopefully ramp up. I get the gimmick of you're picking your opponent. Yeah, seems fun, but a cutesy little thing to do. But let's get down to brass tacks, get some of these best ofs, and really it's just an entire league that's the waiting room for when we're actually going to get those Cloud9 FlyQuest head-to-head matchups, because truthfully what have we had, like one at two at most of actual meaningful huge series between these guys. It feels like we've been denied too many of these. I know Cloud9 kind of dropped the ball a little bit going back to last split, but we need to see more of them. We need to see these two squads push each other. And Team Liquid, I don't know if there's going to be an emergency move made for this roster, because right now they have no business vying for an international berth to represent this region. And unfortunately, first on the chopping block is probably APA in that mid lane, which is crazy to say. And I know Mark and I have both kind of defended, he's been in slumps, but he's a young player. Give him a lengthy leash to kind of grow and develop, but I think that leash is maxed out now. It's snapping back. We got to pull him in and maybe see if there are other options at the very least of who they could slot in to that mid lane, because we know it throughout the entire history of the game has probably been the most important role, because it has such a high impact mid, early, late throughout the entire game. And right now, you're not getting nearly a high enough level out of APA in that mid lane. You're definitely getting a high enough level out of the top dogs in the LCK, as over the weekend we saw both T1 and Gen.G. It's amazing when they aren't matching up head-to-head how badly they can dismantle the rest of the LCK, and I'm legitimately starting to feel bad for Nongshim and KT for just having to continually be punched in the jaw, going from Hanwha to T1 to Gen.G, going back and back and back, just going around and taking a beat down from them. For Nongshim, it was against T1, and it was kind of two vintage performances from two iconic players in these two sets of series. First, you had the absolute masterclass out of Keria on the Alistar, who poetically gets, a single kill to be the first LCK support to get 500 kills, which is insane. How many records this guy has already set as a support and just as an LCK player as a whole, for how incredibly young he still is, still younger than most of the supports playing in the LCK, and is already approaching that conversation of being best support of all time, which I think by the end of his career will be an absolute no-brainer to talk about. But you got the absolute masterclass out of him. T1 continues to, look great, look clean, look confident. I think losing that series to Gen.G was a good, I'm not going to say wake-up call because they are most definitely awake, but pump the brakes a little. If they had beaten Gen.G in back-to-back, you'd be saying, oh my god, this team's peaked too early. There's no way they'll perform at Worlds. So we reel it back in and say, okay, there's still ways to improve for T1 or maybe there's not ways to improve. Maybe Gen.G is just that good, because on that other side, you had the Keria Alistar, we had the ruler Ezreal that showed absolutely no mercy to KT and the boys. Docdom and Wei taking over that starting spot for Peter the last couple of weeks. Didn't really, if you had a percentage of mystic shots and skill shots in general that ruler hit, the ultis maybe weren't the magic stuff, but the W's and Q's he hit throughout this game, that was fully a Korean Ezreal, fully him popping off. He had 90% of the kills throughout the Ezreal game, and Gen.G as a whole just, honestly, I've never seen a team go through the motions more, and usually that's a negative connotation that you're saying about a team that's kind of struggling, just expecting to win and maybe waiting for playoffs in a bit of a slump where the games need to matter more. Gen.G is kind of doing like that, but they're 2-0ing people or beating T1 in dominant fashion in Game 3. They're going through the motions, and that is still enough to completely body some of these squads, which again speaks to the testament of how unbelievably terrifying this squad is, and a matchup nightmare for probably anyone in the world, as they have demonstrated. There's not really more glazing you can do for Gen.G right now. Let's just hope they at the very least have a solid Worlds showing, and they've obviously already clinched basically everything that they can clinch outside of the title for the summer split. We already know they're going to Worlds, and it was, even when there's one guy having a pedestrian series by their standard, I would say Chovy had a pedestrian series by his standard, and there's so much other talent on this roster to step up and fill those voids. Ruler, as we just highlighted today, and Keen is the quiet, consistent one who basically hasn't had a bad series in, I don't know, the better part of a year, if not longer. So the incredible consistency they've been getting out of the top lane, one of the main reasons why Gen.G is as terrifying as they continue to be. And we're getting some scary main character energy coming out of the LPL from squads that are not named Billy Gaming or anyone's legend. I know BLG is in fact 7-0 after a couple back-to-back series wins against World Elite, but they dropped a game in both of those. So we are looking to IG and Top Esports. And how about your boy Gala on IG? I know there's been a lot of talk about the resurgence of Rookie, looking like he's approaching peak form, which is obviously a treat to see, but you got to highlight a guy getting 2 pentakills in 3 days, basically the span of a weekend. He got 2 pentakills, and even more impressive was this most recent one on the Varus, because, I mean, you break down every kill that he gets. So often a pentakill is just an incredibly fed guy. His team is 10k up, and he's just last hitting everybody, bang, 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 bang. This was immaculately played out of Gala throughout on the poke Varus, which always AD carries, not always, usually it's such high octane so fast these pentakills happen, but this was drawn out, slow played with the Varus, waiting for his cooldowns, only using his summoners when he absolutely needs to, but using them at the exact perfect time. Pixel perfect cleanse, flashing away out of a Corki ulti that would kill him if he didn't, to secure the penta. So absolutely well earned, and that's why he was actually smiling for the first time ever on one of these camera cuts afterwards. But he's been playing really well. IG, the Shy's playing tanks in back-to-back games. I know sometimes, at least the Scion and the Ornn, I think he does have fun playing. But this IG, this is the first time since this roster was announced, and I know it's now Wei instead of JJ. It does feel like a revenge tour for Wei, by the way. But it's the first time they've reached this form. It's the best they've looked in this second coming of the Shy and Rookie on this squad. So that's obviously super exciting to see if they can continue to level up and compete with the top of the table in the LPL. The record is there for them to be able to do that now, and Same, I mean, at the top of that table, I know it's amazing how excited people are for a squad like IG, and then you see a 7-1 top esports, and everyone is just waiting for them to choke if they do go to the World Championship or don't want them to go. And I get it, the history is not on their side, but they look pretty damn good right now. You got such clean dives by Kanavi, and the team fight back and forth since Hong has joined is night and day, really. I know there's been some dominant stretches for top esports when they had other supports, but right now, how the bot lane plays together and how the team as a whole is playing around Jackie Love. Case in point, this series against Weibo, the Yanara game for him and the Sivir game. So often we see in solo queue, obviously, but even in pro play, a Fed 80 carry might be kind of left on his own in a team fight where there's a fighter or a tank in the backline diving him, and there's nothing to do. Your 5-0 80 carry is dying to the 0-3 tank, right? But as soon as Jackie Love gets dove on, and that was mission 1, 2, 3, and 4 for Weibo in this series, but the rest of Top Esports is there to back him up. They know how lethal Jackie Love is in a lot of these team fights, and Top Esports, the identity is kind of to play around him, even though Kanavi has been the best jungler in the LPL for, I don't know, going on many years. It remains to be this split. He looks like the best jungler, and that's why Top Esports are getting a lot of these leads that are snowballing out of control, where Jackie Love can take over these fights because of the dives of the side lanes, the mid lane, the jungle control out of Kanavi continues to be absolutely world class. So I know the hesitancy is warranted out of people for Top Esports when they're playing so well domestically, because they turn their switch off when they go internationally to play at a different level, but I'm willing to give them another chance, especially if they earn their way there, because someone of, BLG, anyone's legend, Top Esports, IG, I mean, that sounds like a pretty good 4 right there, but you're still going to have to earn your way to get there, and I will give Top Esports another chance if they do. But that is it today for League Unlocked. My name is Eric. Thank you to all you beautiful people, as always, for hanging out and supporting, and we will catch you on that flippity flip.